Okay. So, behind me in that apartment up there, there was an elderly woman named Miss Miyako, and everyone in the apartments used to know her. The reason why everyone went to her house was because she used to have this deal where, essentially, if you brought her a little collection of empty bottles or cans, she would give you a popsicle or a soda. And for a while, it worked out pretty well. After a while, though, kids started taking advantage and just bringing like one bottle. And she never stopped giving out popsicles, so it was a little exploitative, but it was it was all right. Unfortunately, she passed away, and now yeah, now someone else lives there. All right. Now this right here, this little pipe right here seems pretty inconspicuous, but it was actually the cause of a lot of trouble a few years ago. For a long time, this thing had just a little nozzle dangling here instead of this pipe, but nobody used it because there was no turning mechanism, so no one thought you could get water. That is until a few years ago. Somebody found out that if you got a wrench and you turn the screw at the top, it would actually give you water. Now, once we all found out about this, we started using it to fill up our water balloons, our water guns, and even a kiddie pool. Unfortunately, one day it got a little, I'll just say a little hectic, and somehow it broke. Literally this whole section of plants was drowned in water for hours and hours on end. For the rest of the day, the water pressure was pretty low for a lot of buildings, and the maintenance guys came in, and at the day of the flood, there wasn't really a replacement nozzle, so somebody's dad just stuck a pipe here and kind of welded it in there, and still to this day it hasn't been fixed, so no water from here. Now, as you can see, this is a little tree house. A big opening in this willow tree has been hollowed out, and it was actually a lot more full back then. But you see what happened is let's say about 8 years ago, everyone in this area of the apartments decided we wanted a tree house. Now, we decided that if we just hollowed out an already existing tree on ground level, we could actually have a hideout. And so we spent a good few weeks every day after school taking out branches, leaves, everything like that, and it actually worked out pretty well. We got some good space, but there was a lot of disputes. It was a very patriarchal society, but what basically happened was there was a lot of disputes between boys and girls trying to use the fort here. So there was even a few battles, intense battles, the most brutal battles I've ever been in, over who could use the treehouse. It got so bad, in fact, that we decided to make another treehouse. So as you can see, this was the boys' treehouse that we had built, the boys as we deemed it, and just a few steps over here, this way, was another fort that we made or started. We called the girls' fort. Now, this big tree house right here was the final installment that we made in this neighborhood, at least as far as I can tell. And this one was sort of a compromise between those two. And it came years after the first original tree houses. We inhabited it, and it's very, very spacious inside. It's very high up and very wide. And so we for a few years we used this very, very consistently. It was a cool place to hang out, which we originally intended for the other tree houses, but could fit at least 10 people. And it got to a point where kids even started bringing mattresses from the dumpster into here, even a bed frame. Needless to say, the maintenance guys didn't like that very much. And well, now no one really cares about it. Right behind me is a storage shed. Nothing very special about it, but a few years ago, about 10 years ago, my brother insisted that this is where the neighborhood maintenance guy lived and slept when he was done with work. I don't know where he got this idea from or what evidence he had to prove his premise. In addition, everyone called the first neighborhood maintenance guy Bob the Builder. He had tools and a tool belt, and he fixed things, so he was Bob the Builder. So a few years ago, if you came here when my brother was little, you would have seen him point at this thing and say something like, oh, Bob the Builder lives there. And you would have been like, what the hell is he talking about? Now, just past this tool shed here, where Bob the Builder supposedly lived, right across the gate over there is the storage shed for the pool, the control panels. Now, a few years ago, when everyone first moved in, it was advertised that the pool would be a heated amenity. Now, within the first year of moving in, everyone realized that that was a bunch of BS and it was never heated. And everyone just dealt with the fact that it was cold all the time. Now, after 1 year of living here, eventually someone, someday, overnight, we still don't know who to this day, broke in over that gate and got into the control panel and actually changed the heating so that for the next day, all day, it was hot like a jacuzzi. And everyone came in and it was like, it was paradise. It was like a giant hot tub that everyone shared and peed in. It was great. Unfortunately, the maintenance and management at that time found out. They came the very next day. They locked the shed again, and they locked the control panels themselves. A few years after that, they completely took out the control panels, so now we can't even make it hot if we wanted to. And now for almost a year and a half, it hasn't been used at all. And the pool's dirty. Now, a few years ago, in our apartments, two girls were walking and they came across a bird, a baby bird, all by itself on the ground. And they had the kindness to take it in and bring it to everyone else. And they named this bird Lucky because they thought that he was lucky to be found. So, for the rest of that day, everyone was just hanging out as we usually did. And we happened to give this bird a bath, some food and water. I didn't give it a bath, but they did. And so for a few nights after that, the first girl who found it, she took it home with her every day. Once it got dark because it got too cold. And on the fourth day, I would say, the second girl who found it insisted that she has the rights, custody rights to this bird as well. They got into it for a good while. It was intense, it was brutal. Until finally they decided, okay, fine, the second girl can take it home, that's okay. So the second girl takes it home for the first night. And the next morning, everyone wakes up. We ask, how's Lucky doing? The second girl brought the bad news to us that Lucky had passed away. He is buried right there in that grass plot.